So here we have the ferry, and we are together with Trihang Bhikkhuni.
Cho một người bưng cái khay đèn cầy với nhang đó.
Một người bưng khay đèn cầy với nhang rồi chúng ta xếp hàng thầy tới khoảng 10 phút nữa tới ha. Cũng 15 phút nữa.
Đang có 10.
One more gift for you.
In Holland we have this also, but in Sri Lanka they don't know.
Easy.
No, not to get it, but once you get it. So here we are again, getting off the ferry.
You come to my temple. You got a beautiful why the flower welcomed you too. Yeah.
The jacaranda, welcome flower carpet.
Yeah. Welcome by you to my land.
It's called Bellberry suburb, and we're on our way to Banyan, the name of the suburb of Suku, no? They say Suku Trihang.
Many care gì đó hay vậy.
Palm trees. Looks so quite tropical. Oh, many cars have come already, and another nun also there. Oh no, that's Lemonen. He will come in the afternoon because he had to stay back for a special invitation. But then when Trihang drops me, he will come again in the afternoon.
Xếp hàng đón thầy vô. Nam mô
Di Đà Phật.
Mình đứng thành 2 hàng, mình đón thầy đi.
Two line, left and right side.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Ola Ananda. I'm Bhikkhuni Thích Nữ Trí Hằng. Today is the most wonderful day for me to you have opened your wonderful honor to come to my meditation hut. On behalf of all my students here, we would like to thank you kindness to come in here, to blessing for us, to give us some Dharma talk. Then we follow the Dharma talk from the Buddha and follow the Dharma talk from the Sangha, and we just practicing daily from we are now. Once again, on behalf of my students, I would like to thank you very much for you to give me some time to come here to blessing and to guide us the way to Navada and the freedom of the life. Thank you very much for you coming.
Sukhi Hotu. A Di Đà Phật. No, it's not on. So, Venerable Bhikkhuni Trihang and dear friends in the Dhamma, today, let them come in. As you all know, just at very short notice, Bhikkhuni Trihang has invited me to come to her temple. We have met several times over many years, both in Australia as well as in Paris, just before she became a nun also, at the Linsan temple in Paris. So this is long-standing relationship, which may be going back to previous lives, who knows. And even with my now 94-year-old teacher, who was supposed to come this morning, but now we had to change the program a little bit. He will come in the afternoon, since there is a special almsgiving at the Sri Lanka Buddhist temple where we are staying as guests. And they were quite disappointed yesterday night when I said we are going out. He said, oh, I had forgotten. And so we made a compromise solution. I will come here and he will stay back, but then when Tri Hai will bring me back in the afternoon, he will come back with her. So then he can bless her temple. That is her main wish, that he will put his feet here in the temple and bless the place. So that is why I came alone this morning. And I'm very happy to see this beautiful place in a place called Banyan. Now Banyan is a holy tree in Sri Lanka actually, and in India. The banyan tree you find in most of the temples, even in Hindu temples and also Buddhist temples, the banyan tree. So this is a very good place to have a Buddhist temple. And in Holland, by the way, I stay in a Vietnamese Buddhist temple when I ever go there, which is once or twice a year, just for a few days. But since now 12 years, I've had a room there, and that is in a street called the Middenweg, which means the middle way. So the Buddhist temples seem to get very appropriate places, well, if you look for it, I suppose, and if you have the good karma. Now, today you're expecting a little Dharma talk from me, not just worldly talk, but little Dharma talk. So I would like to talk about some aspects of Buddha's teachings, and namely about what is called the 5 laws of cause and effect. The Buddha's teachings are basically about cause and effect. There's nothing in the world without a cause, and every cause has its effect. And one effect is not just caused by one particular thing, but by many, and it is a very complex law and laws which operate in this universe. And one of those laws is called karma or kamma. In Pali language we say kamma, in Sanskrit karma, and in English now the word karma has been accepted as a word in even the English dictionary. But some people seem to misunderstand what karma is, so maybe we should talk a little bit about what is the meaning of karma. Now karma is formed, the Buddha said, by our intentions. It is the intentions which make the karma. Chetanahang bhikkhave kammang vadami, it is called in the original Pali language. Chetana means the intention with which you do something or say something and even think something that is sometimes based on good things, on good roots, what they call, sometimes based on bad roots. What is called good roots is basically, let's say, the bad roots first. The bad roots means based on greed, hatred, and delusion. If you say something and do something based on greed, hatred, and delusion, then your actions will lead to some kind of suffering for others and yourself, because it is based on unskillful roots. On the other hand, if you think, say, and do something based on the skillful roots, that is the absence of greed, absence of hatred, absence of delusion, or on the other hand, the positive side, the presence of generosity, loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom, then your actions are called skillful, and the karma becomes skillful. It will lead to your own and to other people's welfare and happiness, upliftment. So that is how you can distinguish between good and bad karma. It is created within your own mind, basically. But your own mind means your stream of consciousness in this lifetime is linked to the stream of consciousness of yourself in previous lifetimes. It is that stream of consciousness which continues from life to life, from life to life. And even though it is changing, it has the cause and effect in it, and a line of identity that makes you think, this was me. For instance, when you are a young baby, you say, that was me when I was 1 year old, 2 years old, like that. But really speaking, your body of a 2-year-old is not the same as your body now. All the cells have already changed many times over, but still you identify with it as, this is me, this is my body. And similarly, you identify yourself with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your intentions and with your memories. And therefore you say, this is me. But really speaking, the me is always changing. The Buddha said there is no eternal, everlasting, unchanging core or self or soul in all this. But there is the law of cause and effect of karma, which makes this stream of consciousness be linked together over a long period. Even from life to life, this law of karma operates. So what we are experiencing in this lifetime sometimes can be caused by things that we have done in previous lives. Many, many lifetimes ago, or the immediate previous life, and that carries on the results in this lifetime. But it is very, very hard to exactly figure out with our limited mind, with our thoughts, what are the exact causes of this particular situation. So the Buddha said, karma is achinteya, it is an unthinkable. You can't figure it out with your limited thoughts. Therefore, basically, don't worry about it. And the fact is that it is there, the cause and effect, and some enlightened beings can actually see, this was the cause of that particular effect. But most of us cannot really see it. We don't even remember what we had for breakfast on the 13th of February last year, let's say. So let alone what we did in a previous life. But of course there are some children, especially young children, who suddenly come out spontaneously with memories of past lives. And for them that is a reality. And for us, if you don't remember your past life, it is just, well, something that other people have said that it is so. And of course, nowadays with hypnotic regression and other techniques, people can actually go back to their previous lives. And through meditation, if you reach higher states of jhana or absorption, concentration, you also might be able to remember your previous lives. But that is not so important actually to know exactly what you did in a previous life. It's more important to know what you're doing in your present life. And really speaking, we always live in the present, actually speaking. But sometimes we think about the past and we think about the future, and then we identify with that thought and that memory sometimes, and it is as if we are reliving the past. But really speaking, we're just thinking in the present. So the Buddha said, be aware of what you are experiencing in your body, in your feelings, in your mind, and then live in the present. Let go of the past and don't sort of anticipate the future. Here we have to be a little bit careful when we say let go of the past. It's not that you forget everything, because if you would forget everything, you would not be able to talk, for instance. If you forget the language, or if you forget how to get back home, or if you are a doctor, you forget everything about medicine and so on, or an engineer. That is not meant by it. But to let go of the psychological past, the psychological past meaning all the bad and even the good memories, which, especially the bad memories, we should let go of, which have become part and parcel of our memory. That, especially if it is based on some greed and hate and regrets and remorse, then we should probably just let go of it, because the past is the past. And we live actually in the present. And in the present moment is the only moment that we can do something about our situation. The past is already conditioned, and the future is not yet here. The future will come to us from moment to moment. So every moment is actually the present moment, the only time that we can really do something about our karma, you could say. So we as human beings have the possibility to think and to distinguish between what is good and bad, for instance. What is skillful, what is unskillful. What is helpful, what is not helpful. And in that way, the Buddha gave very good advice to his own little son of 7 years when the Buddha went back to his palace after his enlightenment. The son, Rahula, was already 7 years old at that time. And Buddha said, dear son, just before you say something or before you do something, just consider briefly, what is this going to do to myself and to the other, especially to the other? Is it going to be helpful or hurtful? Is it going to be good or bad for the other person and for yourself? Now, if it's going to be good for both yourself and the other, then it doesn't matter. You can say it, you can do it. It's actually good. And if it's going to be hurtful to the other and yourself, then you have to restrain yourself. Don't say it, don't do it, because it's going to hurt. And then you have the other possibility that it's going to hurt only the other, but it's good for yourself. Then also you should restrain yourself, refrain from saying that and doing that. And if it is going to be helpful to the other person, but a little bit difficult to yourself, then you can still consider to do it or say it as a help to the other. That is like the development of paramis, good qualities. So, it takes about 2 minutes to explain that, but when you think about it, it takes only a second. When you consider, is it going to be good or bad for the other person, immediately you know it, and then you should not say this or do it. If you say it and do it, later on you may regret. They say, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say this, I didn't mean to do this, but you actually did it. And then, of course, something has to be made up and you have to ask forgiveness, or the other person says, well, it doesn't matter, or something like that. So you create karma in a way like that, based on good or bad intentions. Now, karma is actually one of the laws of cause and effect, and a very, very important one in this universe. According to the Buddhist teachings, there are 4 more laws of cause and effect. And one of those is called the law of the seed, S-E-E-D. The seed is that which you sow, for instance, like rice seeds grow into rice plants, then banana seeds grow into banana trees, apple seeds into apples. And similarly, actually in the Bible you find you reap as you sow, as you sow, so shall you reap. So similarly, that is also in the law of karma. But even in the physical law of biology, we also inherit the qualities of our parents and grandparents. Sometimes you look like your grandmother or like your father, or you inherit the diseases, sometimes like diabetes, from your grandmother or something like that. So, and that is a very important law of cause and effect also, that has to do with the biological inheritance that we get from our generations, from the grandparents and so on. But the mind, of course, and the karma comes from our own stream of consciousness from another body, which we were in our previous lives. So we have the physical side of things, that is what we inherit in the law of the seeds, and then the karmic side is more like what we inherit from our own actions from the past. Then we have what is called the law of the environment. Huttu niyama it is called in Pali language. And the environment is not just like the physical climatic environment, whether it's hot or cold, but that also influences, of course, our life. And it also is the social climate, the kind of friends that you have, peer groups, also your teachers, your parents, and the influence of the, let's say, the political climate. As Vietnamese, you know very well about political climate. So the climate is very widely seen. Physical, social, political, economic climate, all that influences your life. So that is also an important law of cause and effect. And then we have the law of our mind, that is called chitta niyama in Pali. The mind itself has what we just said, the choice to do something or not to do something, to do it in this way or in another way, and therefore the mind, as a human being, we have this mind which can discriminate between good and bad and between skillful, unskillful, and to do something or not. And therefore, as human beings, we have a certain amount of free will, which other beings, like animals and even the invisible deities, don't have. They are just reaping the results of their previous actions, and they react, especially as animals, according to their instincts. But as human beings, we have a choice to do between good and bad, and sometimes we can also, through our wisdom, come to a point where we can transcend the law of cause and effect. We don't have to be caught in our old patterns of our old karma. If that were the case, that we are caught in the old patterns of our karma, then we would never be able to get out from this cycle of rebirth. Therefore, the Buddha taught that if you practice mindfulness and awareness and also equanimity and kind of detachment, then you'll be able to overcome all these other laws, and you can get out from the cycle of birth and death and attain the highest happiness of nirvana or nibbana. I think you say nibban in Vietnamese. So that nibbana is actually the very highest aim of Buddhists, to attain that realization of something which is beyond all the known things that we can see and hear, smell, taste, touch and think. And it is also an unthinkable, it is something that we cannot imagine, but it is something that is there. And the Buddha said, this Nibbana actually is not somewhere very far away from you or in the long distant future, but it is something that is basically already there within you. You can realize it within you. You don't have to go anywhere. If you just sit and realize the reality of life, the characteristics of everything, that it is changing, transient, never the same, that it is therefore not satisfactory, even happiness changes into unhappiness, health changes into sickness sometimes. Fortunately, most of the time, hopefully, at least we get better again, and we sometimes lose, sometimes we gain, sometimes we're happy, sometimes unhappy. So all these worldly conditions are changing all the time. That is called anicca. It is changing. Also our own body, our feelings, our thoughts, our intentions, our consciousness, everything is changing all the time. So therefore, if you see that, then you can let go of your clinging and your grasping and your craving and your aversion also. become more free from the attachments and the aversions that you may have towards everything, basically, yourself and others and the world around you. So in that way, if we develop that insight wisdom, then we have developed our minds in the right way to prepare ourselves for the final exit, so to speak, of this samsara. But of course, as you know, as Vietnamese Buddhists, Mahayana Buddhists, there is also the Mahayana way, the Bodhisattva way, that a Bodhisattva, even though he or she knows that this is the way out of samsara, or the ocean of existence, this is the way to Nibbana, we then, as Bodhisattvas, take the vow not to get out of this samsara until all beings can be liberated and attain nirvana. And therefore, one takes the determination to stay in this samsara, not so much because we like it that much, but be able to help other people and beings to attain that happiness and peaceful state for themselves. So that is a kind of sacrifice in a way, and a spiritual practice which is called the Bodhisattva way. Pu Sa Tao in Chinese, and something similar in Vietnamese. I can't pronounce the Vietnamese yet. So that Bodhisattva way is one way. And then we have, that is actually if you aspire to become a future Buddha. That is, according to Theravada, a very, very rare occasion. But you can try, you can follow the Bodhisattva way and develop your good qualities of wisdom, of truth, of determination, of detachment, of morality, of generosity, all those good qualities, even if you're not going to become a future Buddha, are very good qualities to practice as a Bodhisattva or as a good human being, as a Buddhist also. And therefore, we still have one more law in the universe which I didn't mention. So far we have had what is called the seed law, or the law of the seed, that is bija niyama. Then we have the law of the environment, the utu niyama, karma niyama, the chitta niyama of the mind, and then we have what is called the dhamma niyama, that is the law of nature, the natural laws like the gravity of the stars and the moon and so on, and the earth, and all the laws of cause and effect in the physical world also influence us. You know, like when the moon is on one side of the earth, then there is high tide, low tide, and sometimes people on full moon become a bit loony, so to speak. That also influences the attraction of the moon, and there are different kinds of influence even of the sunspots and other things on our earth from the universe. So that is the physical law of the Dharma, the natural laws also. Sometimes natural disasters takes place. We cannot blame everything on karma. When the tsunami comes, some people say, well, it was their karma that they were hit by the tsunami. Or when a war takes place, that it was their karma. But sometimes it is also man-made or natural-made disasters, which don't always have to do something with your own previous karma. It could be a kind of random factor also. Although random is hardly available, everything is more or less cause and effect, but it doesn't always have to be karma only. We have all these 5 laws operating, and it could be any combination and permutation of all these 5 laws together. So it's very, very complex, but the Buddha explained it so in these 5 types of laws to make you understand that, we as human beings also have the chance through our minds to transcend these laws of cause and effect by really coming out of, let's say, ignorance. When we look at the 4 noble truths, for instance, the 4 truths that the Buddha summed up his teachings in, that is the truth of dukkha or suffering, the truth of the causes of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the path leading to the end of suffering. those Four Noble Truths, there is this second truth which says the suffering has causes. And what are the main two causes within yourself? It is tanha and avidya. In Pali language, tanha means craving. Craving for something that you don't have. It could be craving for things of the senses. You want to see more, you want to hear more, you want to smell more, taste more, feel more, and think more. So that is what is called sensual craving, kama tanha. Then it could be that you are craving for some fine material existence, like you want to be born in heaven, for instance. That is also a kind of craving. We call it bhava tanha. That is craving for fine material existence. And some people have a craving for non-becoming. They want to get out of this world. They say, stop the world, I want to get off. But you can't, you know. So some people actually commit suicide, they kill themselves out of selfish reasons, thinking that that would end their suffering. But actually it doesn't end their suffering also, because they continue in another level of existence, sometimes with more suffering, and they don't realize that the suffering around them of their relatives is even greater after they do something like that. So that is also not a way out of suffering. The Buddha said these cravings are actually all causes for sorrow and lamentation and conflict and suffering for yourself. So that has to be overcome. But it is all a kind of result of our ignorance, not knowing the reality or the truth of things. And that is called avidya, or ignorance. Now the word ignorance in English means that you don't know anything. Now for instance, if you don't know a thing about astrology or astronomy or about geology or about geography or whatever, then they say that person is an ignoramus, he's ignorant. But in Buddhist terminology, ignorance doesn't mean that we haven't read a lot or don't know a lot or don't know anything. It actually means that we don't see the Four Noble Truths, we don't see the things as they really are. There is this little story in the book called The Art of Living, about meditation according to the system of Goenka, where it says there was a professor, very learned professor, on a ship, on a cruise ship, and he was on a holiday, and he met this sailor. Every evening they had a discussion, and then he asked from this sailor, who was also senior sailor, he had been on the sea for a long time, shall we have a little discussion? Yes. And then he asked from the sailor, do you know astronomy? The sailor said, what is that? I don't know about it. He says, you've been sailing a long time and you don't know, you see these stars all the time and you don't know astronomy? You have wasted 1/4 of your life. Oh, well, the next day he says, do you know oceanography? What is that? So then the sailor is so sad that he says, sorry, I don't know what is oceanography. But you've been sailing your whole life. Well, you have wasted another 1/4 of your life. Then do you know about geography? What's that? Well, sorry, you have wasted another 1/4 of your life. Then the next day, in the evening, just before the discussion, a big storm comes, and the ship goes like this and like that, and it's about to capsize. Then the sailor comes running to the professor, and he says, Professor, do you know swimology? He says, sorry, I can't swim. Oh, sorry, then you've wasted your whole life. So he knew so many things, but he didn't know how to swim. So it's very important, to know how to swim psychologically, or rather spiritually, how to get out of this ocean of existence. Yeah. Ah yes, you can lean against the wall. And give a cushion to the back also. Yes, maybe. Yes, that's a good idea. Yes, very good. Okay. Then, so these 5 laws of cause and effect is what the Buddha calls the Panchaniyama, or the 5 laws of cause and effect. And what we should basically see is that it is the ignorance that is not seeing the things as they really are, which is the main cause for our suffering, and also for this craving and attachment. So if we can overcome what is called the ignorance by developing wisdom, then we may be able to overcome the cause of our suffering. So now, wisdom comes in different ways. Some wisdom comes from listening to the Buddha's teachings, or to read the Buddha's teachings. But that is actually the words of wisdom of another person, the Buddha. So it is second-hand knowledge in a way, which we then hear. And sometimes, people come for a Dharma talk, and then they say, "How was the talk?" afterwards. "Oh, it was very good." "And what did the monk say?" Let me think. I can't remember 90% of it, because sometimes these words come into one ear and they go out the other. Very little remains in between. That's not so important, but it is to say that that kind of knowledge or wisdom is not permanent, and it is borrowed wisdom from another person. So it is not yet your own. Sometimes, actually in the time of the Buddha, it happened that when the Buddha was speaking, and some of the monks who were listening at the same frequency, the same intensity, they caught immediately what the Buddha was teaching, and they got enlightened on the spot. Not by thinking about it, not by meditating, but by just listening. Like Kondanya, one of the first 5 disciples of the Buddha. It's called Anya Kondanya. Anya Kondanya, he understood, the Buddha said. So then, that is one way of attaining wisdom, but it is actually borrowed wisdom or knowledge, an accumulation of knowledge, which is not yet the liberating wisdom. Then another way is, after listening to the Dhamma and reading about it, you think about it, or you discuss about it, Dhamma discussions. Then, or what they call Dhamma investigation in yourself. You think about Buddha's teachings, and then you make it more clear to yourself, and that is a kind of wisdom that comes to you more clear and more close and more of your own, but yet it is of an intellectual nature. It is thinking and conceptual, is not yet that which makes the penny drop, so to speak. You know that expression? Something makes the penny drop. Suddenly, oh, bingo, you see what happened. But that doesn't always happen. So that kind of wisdom is also still superficial and not enough to give us liberation. But then there is a third type of wisdom which comes from meditation. That is called Bhavana Maya Prajna in Pali and Sanskrit. That is the wisdom which arises from meditation. And that, especially if you look at meditation, the insight meditation, which leads to deep levels of insight wisdom, that is the kind of wisdom which can liberate our minds. Not just suppression of our thoughts and temporary tranquility meditation, but what is called insight or vipassana meditation. So that is why, if you practice that, then you see for yourself with your own, not your thinking mind, but with your experiential mind, with your mindfulness or your awareness, then you see, that is really what is meant by temporary nature or changing nature or unsatisfactory nature, or sometimes non-self nature, the insubstantiality, the non-substantiality of everything. You can see the emptiness of it for yourself. Now, for instance, we think that everything here is real, and up to a certain extent it is. That is what we call the relative reality. The table is real, the cup is real, you are real. But if you look at it more deeper and from a longer term effect, we are always changing. The table also consists of a lot of, molecules actually. And even diamonds, diamonds are forever, they say, but even diamonds are not forever. James Bond's film was that one, Diamonds Are Forever, and people think they invest in diamonds when the money goes down and they start investing in gold and diamond because it is more valuable, but it is not eternal. And if you would put a piece of diamond under an electronic microscope, what would you see? You would see, twirling atoms and molecules going around each other with a lot of space in between. And if you go deeper into the matter, then you come to the subatomic level, then they say there's no matter, it's just energy. And therefore, the absolute or ultimate truth of matter is that there's no matter. But that's very deep. We cannot live like that, with that kind of level all the time. But it gives us a deeper knowledge and experience and a perspective about life. And it helps us to make things more relative, not so absolutely important, Or for instance, when you look at the stars and look at the universe, you start seeing how small we really are. But sometimes we think we're very, very important, when our ego plays up, then we think we are the universe, or we are the center, and we are very important. So everything is sort of relative, and when you look at it in that way, that helps also to overcome our clinging, our craving, our attachments, and our aversion, so we become more, equanimous, even-minded towards everything. That is very important, and with that kind of insight and wisdom, that actually extracts the roots of our suffering, namely the greed, hatred, and ignorance, or the attachment and ignorance. And therefore, then when you can do that, and you can also see not only those characteristics, but also what is called the unconditioned. There is one thing that is called conditioned, the other thing is unconditioned. And according to Buddha's teachings, there's only one thing which is unconditioned, that is Nibbana itself. All the other things, under the stars, under the sun, and here in the world, are basically cause and effect, and influenced by time and space, and it is all conditioned. One thing depends on another. So all that which is conditioned is always a form of unsatisfactoriness. It can never give us 100% satisfaction or real happiness that lasts forever. Therefore, Buddha says, don't look for your real happiness in that direction. That is called worldly happiness or worldly pleasure. That's okay, but don't think that that is the real thing. So realize that worldly happiness is also temporary, and that what we are looking for really is a lasting peace and happiness which is unconditioned, and that is only the realization of Nibbana. And where is Nibbana? Not somewhere on the moon or far away or in the future life when the Maitreya Buddha comes, but also already available within yourself. And therefore, we don't need to wait till our next life or future lives and hope to meet the Maitreya Buddha. It would be good if we are still around, but then you never know whether you're going to recognize him or miss him and be able to listen to his teachings. And what will be his teachings? The Four Noble Truths, the same Four Noble Truths. So why not make use of this chance of having been born as a human being in a time when Buddha's teachings are there, and that you hear the Buddha's teachings, and that you can actually practice them, and then, the same Four Noble Truths, if you realize them within yourself. The fact of dukkha, or suffering, everybody knows, but then the causes of suffering have to be overcome. Then the end of suffering is basically already within you, but you have to remove the causes. And then the path to it is leading a good life based on morality, develop your mind to get more mindfulness and concentration, and leading to wisdom to see the things as they really are. And then we have actually the possibility to come out of this suffering for ourselves. And if you know how it is, then of course with the additional Mahayana ideal of practicing as a bodhisattva, you can help more people. Because otherwise it would be the blind leading the blind, not knowing what is the way, and then therefore if you know it for yourself and then choose, that's a very high ideal of the bodhisattva, to stay in this round of rebirths again and again, and to then help many, many sentient beings to overcome the causes of suffering and to eradicate the suffering and eventually also come out of this cycle of rebirth. So I wish everybody here who have been listening to the Dhamma talk that you may be blessed by Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and also Kwan Am Bodhisattva and all the other Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, and the Mahasangha, also the Buddha's disciples, and that you may be well, peaceful and happy and prosperous in this life and overcome all your suffering and attain the highest happiness possible. May you be well and happy. I'll just chant a short chant of blessing towards the end. Sabbitiyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinassatu mate bhavattvantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sati bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sati bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sati bhavantu te abhivadana siddhissa nityang buddha pacaino cattaro dhamma vaddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sarga sampatti mevacha atto nibbana sampatti iminati saminjatu.
Meditation hall.
Yeah.
And then, but now we got some time here.
Good.
Please,
You have something?
Is when you say karma, is it? I find myself saying to my kids what Buddha said to his son, think before you speak, or else it might come back. Can you say karma? Is it something you can say? Is it not like a sacred word? Is it something you can say? Because I'm always saying to my kids, you'll get bad karma.
Yeah.
Get bad karma.
It's not a sacred
it's
word.
Not a word. It's a word that you can just say. Say and say.
Yes. You know, now the word karma has also been misused sometimes, like in books like Cola Karma or Coca-Cola Karma or something like that. And but karma sometimes is misunderstood in the sense of that it is a fixed fate. You know, this is your fate, you can't do anything about it, and that is not true. But it is not a sacred word. It's not like you insult the name of God or something, like, you know, in Islam or something like that. You should not do that. This is, yeah. But sometimes, of course, people threaten with karma. You know, you're getting bad karma. Or sometimes karma is seen as a person almost, a personified law. You know, the karma is catching up with you, as if there's somebody, but it's actually a universal law of cause and effect. And it is just mainly that through the intentions with which you've done something in the past and with which you're doing now, you're receiving the happiness or the unhappiness accordingly.
Maybe I think I'm like throwing it at them too much, like.
Yeah. Yes, that should not be based on hopes and fears, you know, like. But sometimes people, even grown-ups, do that, hoping for heaven and fear the hell, and therefore they do something good. But that is not real wisdom. That is just worldly fear for the bad effects of it. But sometimes that also works well.
Sometimes I think, am I overusing it?
That I don't know. Yes, you have to.
Can I ask you, karma can be an action of you are
Yes.
doing. It's
It is action.
Action.
Yeah. Action with intention.
Yeah.
Not just walking in the street, for instance, that is not karmic. But if you, like for instance now, that's an important thing, because in the Buddha's day, there was also another religion called Jainism. The Jains believed that there's life in everything, even in little pieces of grass and in the trees and in the flowers, everything has consciousness and feelings, and therefore if you step on the grass then you create bad karma. And even when you're walking on a path, for instance with sand, and there are some insects under the sand, and because of your walking the ant dies, the Jains say you're guilty of the death of that insect. Therefore they have little broom and they go like this, the very strict Jains, or they wear a mask so they don't inhale little micro insects and things like that. But actually that is an extreme view of karma.
It's hard to live your life.
Yes. And so the Buddha said, no, it is your intention with which, like if you're walking on a path, you see an ant and you're going to step on it to kill it, then of course you're guilty of the death of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any question? Anyone's question? Maybe 14 years ago.
We were also there?
Yeah, that
In 1997 actually, 12 years ago. Yes.
I still have that photo.
Oh yes, with Hartley. Yeah. Yeah. In Linsan temple, yes. Yeah.
It's still the same at that time.
In 97 I was a little bit thinner. Quite a bit thinner. Yes. But yeah, otherwise.
17 năm rồi đã ngày gặp lại chị Hằng mừng lắm.
Thank you.
Yeah, about more than 12 years.
Yes, it was the days of Princess Diane's funeral that we were in Paris.
Yeah, many people.
Oh, here we are at the ferry once again. Yes, we can. Yeah. Oh, especially.
Lovely. There's a few up much better with me nodding down to the seafront.
What's that? What is that now?
Ông nói là beautiful hill.
Beautiful hill.
View.
The view there. Not yet. This is a nursery. And we are just reaching the temple first gate. Yes. Number 114 Considine Street, the Sri Lanka Ramaya Buddhist Monastery in Ellen Grove, Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. To be precise. Here we are inside the shrine room of the Sri Lanka Mahavihara in Brisbane, and our Vietnamese nun, Tri Hang, is getting ready for a group picture. Yes, waiting. Oh, Sheila. Oh, yes. Oh, Yida Phật. Này con đi vào đi để mẹ cắt tỉa cho nên. Here we are with Jerome Karunaratne in front of his house in Pescoville, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, on the 27th early morning of October 2009. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Now this is Melbourne morning traffic going into the city from Pescoville into the city and the southeastern suburbs direction from the north. No, we were in the northwestern or the southwestern? Northwestern suburbs, yes, we were. Now moving towards the city of Melbourne. video clip here. It's nice. Getting into Melbourne City is quite green and beautiful. A lot of traffic. There's a tram over there. And another tram coming up, or rather going down, or what is it? And we are now along the Elizabeth Street approaching the city of Melbourne. Now it's getting red on this side.
This will turn green now.
Yes. And then you got the green light to go. Nice avenue here. Green.
4 kilos too much.
That's right. It makes no difference. It's you kidding yourself.
Yeah. Not so nice. But we're getting stuck here. And Jerome, how are you doing?
Doing fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Where are we now?
We are on King Street
In Melbourne.
in Melbourne City.
All right. And going through a tunnel
Yeah.
near the riverside. This is Caulfield. Caulfield. Cauffield.
Yes.
A Jewish area, a little bit posh area. We are now on our way to Mount Dandenong, Olinda, not Orlando, but Olinda, and the William Ricketts Sanctuary in the Dandenong Hills. The colors of the trees also beautiful.
කලබලකාරී. එතකොට යන්න දුන්නාද?
Yeah, A9 ඇරලා තිබුණානේ.
Yeah, it could be difficult.
ඇත්තද? ඇයි ඒ?
But you have to go through Vaunia to get to Jaffna.
A lot of civilians are international.
But if
Now
somebody
we
is
are
coming up-
descending into the William Ricketts Sanctuary, where I've been long ago, about 20 years ago, in the Dandenong Mountain. Ah yes, and where are we now? At the William Ricketts Sanctuary.
Wonder how old this tree is,
To go up this way, you know?
No branches, right? This tree is just growing up, no branches at all.
Just කපලා වගේ.
Oh, sorry. Yes, and finally we are inside the William Ricketts Sanctuary. Hello Manjula. Hello Jerome. Where are we?
We are at the William Ricketts.
Sanctuary.
In all this sanctuary there is one theme only, expressing reverence for life in the new world environment. Yes, they live on water.
Nice and shady though. Marine nani?
They try, I believe, somehow.
Huh?
Someone can look for driving.
ඒක ඇත්තනේ. ඒක තමයි කතා කරන්නේ.
Ah, spring, nee, de meebelaar.
Oh, then spring.
Ah, here it's spring because we are down under. And in Europe it is autumn, getting cold. There is a tiny little spring here. Make a balandako? Don't know.
No, but water's coming down.
And if I may ask from Jerome, what are your first impressions of the William Ricketts Sanctuary?
I think it's a very nice place for anyone to visit.
Definitely. Yes, Manjula, if I may ask from you, what do you think about this William Ricketts Sanctuary?
It's a beautiful place. It is because I have seen so many statues around the world on the pictures, but I have never seen such a unique statues which we found in this sanctuary. So that is the uniqueness of this place, and I think all the people living in Australia should come and have a visit and see and appreciate what he has done.
Great.
Because there were so many
I think this is William Rickett here on the left. No, it's actually another person.
Not well protected, anybody can do any harm for them.
Well, but you're not supposed to touch it.
Watch your head.
Yes. Reverence for life, mountain of remembrance. In my dreaming, my love ever seeks the holy mountain, more giving and receiving. Our love in beauty becomes an ecstasy. William Rickett with two Aboriginal boys. The figure symbolizes my spiritual nature of God life. This means that a wonderful poise of life has been shown to me. The beautiful poise of life assumes a unique pattern as my love enshrined in a rhythm of spiritual beauty moves and sweeps through mountains, deserts, rocks, water, birds and animals. Everything God created everywhere at one time.
Well, we'll head there one day.
There is nothing much to see actually.
Okay, go ahead. We're leaving the William Rickett Sanctuary, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what have we just seen, if I may ask, from Manjula?
We have seen his beautiful sculptures actually, which he had done in whole his life. He is very close to the nature and the people, bird, animals. That is his philosophy. He doesn't, concise into a one AC room or a room and talk about the nature. He lived in the nature with people, with animals, and learn about them, living with them. That's a beautiful thing.
Natural AC all the time.
Natural AC all the time. You can't live like that's what I might do.
But if you don't have any people, if you don't have many contacts, then you don't need a phone.
At least you should have contact with your family.
But if you don't have family, but if you're living by yourself,
Hello.
Halo kopi. Katakan apa?
Katakan ano?
Tämä on meillä. Minä se tekin näin.
Enggak pun katakan.
But camera. And this will definitely end a visit to the William Ricketts Center. Joringa Cafe is where we had our
That sounds like an original name.
Tantra. But then Manjul is a mature student.
But you,
no?
but you got your brother, no? So that's okay. Huh?
Yeah, it's a great relief, like mainland, China mainland. And he got a scholarship to Taiwan University.
Oh, great. And he's now here.
He's in Taiwan. So this is his last semester
Are you mean on Skype?
on Skype. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I chat with people and all around the world.
You got Skype.
Oh, that is your guess.
What was your religion? I mean, are you United?